call the meeting to order at 7:36. Would someone like to read the mission?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Mission.
Oh,
Oh, do I?
I will read the mission.
Sorry, I need to call roll first.
Oh, okay.
I was too busy drinking my drink. Go ahead, roll call please.
McLaren,
Here.
Hill,
Here.
Wills is absent with notice, Omori,
Here.
Brower,
Here.
Bailey.
Subbing today.
Oh, so that's with notice.
Yep.
And Bryce.
Here.
Okay, now would someone recite the mission?
Sure. I'd be happy to. All right. The Ortonville DDA is dedicated to promoting economic revitalization, supporting local businesses, and preserving the natural and historic heritage of the village of Ortonville by using the 4-point Main Street approach.
Thank you. Next, we have the consent agenda, which includes approval of agenda, approval of minutes, treasurer's report, and an updated project brief.
And I think there's 2 sets of minutes, FYI, because I didn't have any last meeting.
Yes, you're correct.
And, oh, my packet doesn't have, oh, you just cut it off at adjournment? Oh, okay, never mind.
Rather than print a third page.
Yeah,
For a signature.
well,
I make motion to approve the February 10th agenda.
Are we doing,
Consent agenda.
Consent agenda. We're gonna go with the whole consent
Treasurer's
agenda.
report.
are we doing just the consent?
No,
agenda,
that was my error. Wrong line.
Are we doing,
Just the consent agenda at the moment. Disbursements of
I'll make a
tax.
motion to approve the consent agenda.
You support
I'll
Thomas?
support it.
It's a Monday morning.
Just tell me what you want.
Right.
Just tell me.
Are there any questions
Yes, ma'am.
On the agenda?
on the consent agenda? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, moving on to the January 2019 disbursements. Can I get a motion to approve?
I got questions. I did some math on there, I don't know if we achieved an adjustment. When you take a look at the fourth quarter wages and fourth quarter FICA, it does not match the extension on revenue expenditure report. When you look at, where's that, wage expense on the second page, you extend that out, it's off on that for the year, about 9,000. So if we multiply, are the quarterly wages the same every quarter? Is my question.
Not necessarily, it depends on when, in this case, you approved a raise
Right.
midway through the year.
But does that, with the raise, does that reflect what we're looking at activity for the month of January 31st and 2020?
This is what's been allocated to the FICA through January 31st.
Okay. I just didn't know if that needs to change with that raise on there, on the numbers that are
And
here.
to the best of my knowledge, the village treasurer did make those changes.
Okay. Didn't know if there's something we need to look at, because if you were to multiply the fourth quarter wages times 4, it does not match what's on this sheet.
what sheet are you talking about? Just out of curiosity.
And the budget.
Oh, okay.
Budget. So I didn't know if she made those changes. That's why I was asking.
Did your raise come through?
Oh, okay, so your question is, if we were to take the 1,074.75 from the disbursements, 4 times, that does not equal the 38.70 on the income and expense report.
That is correct.
Okay, then I will have to ask the village treasurer that question.
And the same with the wage expense on top. If you took that 13 times 4, not equal 46.
Okay.
Well, the
So that's why I was asking.
If you're talking about prior quarters and ongoing quarters, that could be the difference. Because with the change in the salary, that would change the effect of it. This is, part of it is history and part of it is going forward. So
But
that
are
would-
we not supposed to, I guess my question is, are we supposed to amend the budget
You're
Well,
looking for budget
to
adjustment.
back that?
He's
It
looking
was
for budget
amended
adjustment.
to account for the raise, but it is including quarters prior to the raise
With the less.
in the budget. But
I
like
just
I
want to make
said,
sure if
I'll-
anybody looks at it, that it balances.
I will double check.
Thank you, Bob.
Good question.
These downtown dollar reimbursements, are they the last of what was out there for 2019?
No, not. There were a few that were good through the end of the first quarter, and then the Small Business Saturday winners, those are good through the end of June.
Very good. Any other questions?
No, I'd like to make a motion to approve the January 2020 disbursement in the amount of $60,846.62.
I second that.
And Liz, just for point of clarification on the agenda, is this 2019?
Oh, I do that.
Oh, yeah, just for point of clarification. Sorry.
That's okay.
Can I have a roll call, please?
Certainly. Hill?
Here.
Amori?
Yes.
Brower?
Yes.
Bright?
Here. Yes.
McLaren?
Yes. Motion is approved. Next, we have business to come before the board. A is 2020 Business Work Plan Priorities Exercise Step 3. I believe Matt is ready to go with this.
So last meeting, we went through the business work plan to identify from that what we felt were priorities for 2020. Not to say that things didn't rise to the level of a priority were not important, just that it was recommended that we focus our efforts. And steps 1 and 2 started us on that process. And so another one of the objectives is to take those priorities that you've identified and place them in, hopefully place them in our current strategies. Then we will take a look and see, okay, we said certain strategies were more important than others. Do the objectives, the projects and initiatives, do they align with those priorities? And so I asked you to run through this exercise. And for the sake of recording your responses, I have turned the strategies into 1 through 7.
Thank you.
Exactly what I did.
Exactly what I did.
Yep.
So I'd like to focus first on the primary strategy that each of these projects relate to. So whenever anyone is ready.
Well, for number 1, I had 2. That's 2 and 6.
For the Red Barn,
Also at 2 and 6.
Tanya, you have what, 1?
2 and, for the Red Barn, I had 2 and 6.
I would agree with that, 2 and 6.
and Anyone else?
I have 1, 2, 3, and 6.
As the primary?
Oh, primary?
Yeah, I just wanted to focus on primary. Did you say the 6 would be secondary? When you said it, you
That was I couldn't, there's two of them I couldn't decide on primary. That's one of them.
Yeah, 2 and 6 then is primary for sure. But of those two,
I know, I can't even hurt it.
ideally it's gonna be, well, both. Yeah.
I think when we talk about it though, we talk about it more of a placemaking and financial diversification. While that is what it is, it's not what we talk about quite as much in planning, you know what I'm saying? We do talk about it, just
It's a
not.
big part of my plan though.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I would say, for me, yes, placemaking is important.
Mm-hmm.
But
I do too.
one of the biggest objectives for me is to have that financial diversification. So I don't think I could separate the two.
Okay, I had 2 and 5.
anyone else? Kim?
You know, I would say, it's a tough one. It's just tough to make, pinpoint choices. Honestly, I would say 2 and 6 as well. And I believe, 2 is just huge. Making this like a destination place to come to will just bring money in anyways. So I like that.
Candace, did you happen to do this exercise?
I did, I had it on my phone, and I forgot my phone at home.
Wow, lucky you.
I know, right? So, I kind of like the quietness of my life right now. I would say 2 and 6 as well, so, because it's making that space beautiful, and it has an entryway into that property behind it, and then also, renting the space, using it for financial diversification would go with 2 and 6.
Dale, did you happen to peruse this in advance?
Not to an extent necessary to add to the discussion.
Anything else on that Red Barn property as a project and initiative? Okay, how about the communication plan?
5.
Definitely 5.
I said
How many-
4.
How many people just said 5?
5, 2. Yeah.
And 5 and 1.
Okay. Yeah, they're slow.
It's one day.
What'd you say?
I said 4.
4. Huh?
I know. I'm a rebel like that. Sorry, I'm left-handed. I'm gonna apologize ahead of time.
She can't help it.
Aaron's left-handed.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah. It's easy to teach them things. It's weird. That's what I tell my sister every day.
I think 5. I think 5 for that. I think building the brand of who we are and differentiating ourselves amongst other, small towns, to try to be one step ahead of them in what others might be forecasting, for a couple of years. I think that over this next year that we can get ourselves in a pace where, for sure, we're, in the spotlight of being one step ahead of where others are trying to get to. So that's part of my goal for 2020.
Okay. How about board and volunteer recruitment.
4.
Also 4.
7 and 4.
I did 4 and 7.
I agree, 4 and 7.
Okay. And the farmer's market?
Number 1.
Yes, we are, thank you. Good answer.
I would say 2 and 5.
2 and 5.
Man, they're so close.
I said 2 and 6 for mine,
So many.
because I'm looking for ways to make it stand out until I make us some money. The
That's awesome.
the MIFMA certification I'm going through right now has been extremely helpful with that.
Well,
Oh, Michigan Farmers Market, or Michigan Farmers Market Association,
very cool.
yeah, through MSU.
Oh, awesome. That's great, Candace.
And did they help you and give you that lead?
Well, I'm not, yes,
We are paying for her to do
yeah, they're
that.
paying for me to be certified.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great, good news.
Did you weigh in on the farmer's market?
I have 1 and 2. I also agree with 6 as well, so.
How about the retail challenge?
1.
And then 5.
That says 1.
1 and 2.
Are you averaging these out for, just out of curiosity?
It's on the back
other
side.
page,
Just
on the back side.
raw recording
Okay.
now.
All right.
I said 1.
1.
Is it 1? Awesome.
And business development resources?
1.
I said 1.
Me as well.
I did too.
1.
1, 3.
Happy years.
You see myself.
Yeah, 3.
Yeah, 3 is good though too, Rick.
Our partners program?
3.
Did 1, 3.
I did 7 and 6.
I had 6.
1 and 3.
One and 3. So many are so close.
What do the 2 numbers mean?
We took each of the strategies on page 1 and just numbered them. And so we're identifying which of these strategies are supporting, or what's, let me say this, I'm reversing it. So
How the
How
projects are,
meeting.
which strategy the project is
Supporting.
hoping to achieve.
So if you just number those 1, 2, like that, that's what they.
How about the Ortonville brand
5.
and merchandise?
I said 3.
2 and 5.
Great idea, Paul. I'm gonna go with 5.
I'm also 5.
Yes, 5. All would be
Yeah.
What was the second thing you said, Kim?
5.
Just
Just 5, yeah.
Okay. And the community events?
I said 2 and 5.
Two and five.
2.
Yeah, 2 and 5.
Five.
I have 3 and 5.
3?
And 5,
Because you can't pick just
because I
one.
can't just pick this one.
All directions.
Aren't you asking for primary and secondary?
I wanted to just do primary first.
Oh,
Oh.
We-
sorry, Matt, we've
we-
blown that.
Yeah.
Do you want us
From-
We're
from-
very indecisive.
from the
I
word-
haven't.
From the word go.
Yeah, he's like, I'm used to it now at this point.
It's been going on for how long?
Anyone else who didn't weigh in on our events? And what they,
What did I say? I said 5.
historical walking tour.
2.
2.
Yes, 2.
I can't be
I did 2 and 5. 2, I guess could be primary, 5 could be secondary.
Nothing wrong with secondary. Nothing wrong with it.
I said 2 and
Why
5
change now?
also.
It's consistent, if nothing else.
That's right.
These guys.
Red sweater, blue sweater, both sweaters.
So we can keep quiet the next time around,
This has
right?
got to read the definitions.
I know what the definition is of place.
Placemaking is a place that you're turning into something. Historical's already been made. You can't placement.
You're creating a place though by having a historical walking tour and having people have a reason to be there. That's placemaking.
Reimagine and reinvent.
That's right there.
Kind of highlight.
Main Street
It's
101,
already
baby.
there. It's historical.
Recreate place.
It's not place creating.
Placement, recreating.
Anything else on the walking tour? We have lots of 2s, a few 5s, and a 3.
Oh,
How about wayfinding?
2.
3. 3? 3. We're working as a group with everybody to wayfind.
Well, that's true.
But isn't the wayfinding?
The wayfinding, that's true.
Trying to get us into downtown.
2?
Is that what the wayfinding is described as?
Yeah.
What was yours?
I mean,
2?
It's, well, there's
2 and
there's
5.
Recording it, 'cause-
I'm 2 and 5.
Boston Park, at the Brick Senior Center, the park.
It's not just the entrance.
Possibly a
that we're
gateway, all of
Making-
this.
I thought it was
They're
primarily
making,
gateway.
so it all looks the same.
I have something to say on the mural when you get to it.
Kim?
Yes, then number 2.
That's right.
Do
And
you
if
see
you
a
don't say 2
secondary?
for this last one, I'll slap you.
Just because you said that.
Meet me outside after the meeting.
Do you see,
I mean, I would say,
Courtney, do you see a secondary?
For wayfinding?
I would say-
Yeah, a secondary, I would go with 3 as a secondary. After Tanya
Indicated.
Do I get a secondary?
willfully,
What
Because mine is not to.
after Tanya willfully explained,
I could see
I
the
mean,
3 actually, because we are collaborating
where it's
with
a
everybody, yeah.
existing collaborative
Yeah.
group that's working on that, so.
Yep.
Why'd you shake?
No, you're fine. You're fine.
It's,
Leah shakes too, it's fine.
the way that group is already going, I think is a very positive collaboration.
You're just going for time.
Okay?
I don't
And
want it. We're gonna take
the-
out the center.
And the public art mural?
2.
2 and 3.
2.
It's
2.
not collaboration.
2.
Oh, but it is. You can't do it without the businesses
2
agreeing.
and 5.
That's true. It's only collaboration with the business.
Oh, clever. And the art.
Go ahead, Liz.
I don't know how many have Detroit news stations, but the mural, I think, would be awesome for this year because Fiat Chrysler just announced that they're looking for artists to do their mural on their wall, that the plant that they're building in Detroit.
Oh, a new plant.
And I think I'm not sure when they're taking applications until, but they are going to make a determination by June 30th.
For an artist or
Yes,
for
the mural,
for
yeah.
rendering.
No, the applications I think are until March. Who has Detroit stations?
I do.
I do.
I'm not sure how long they're taking.
So I mean, is it one artist for the whole thing? Or
Yes.
is it multiple artists?
No, and it's
Oh,
like huge.
I know.
Yeah.
I think that's still up in the air, whether it's gonna be one artist or a group of artists.
Okay.
Or sections, but
But still,
it
it's-
also will determine as to what the project is going to look like, whether it's gonna be one whole theme or separate themes.
But
There's
it's
a
in the
place
news,
in
that's,
Georgia,
you know, kind of
is
what
it
I'm
Georgia?
saying.
I can't think of it right now. That has just got a fantastic job of murals all over their city. Trying to think, a friend of mine moved down there and we went to visit him and I was just in awe.
Yeah.
I mean, every building had one wall that was covered with something different. And they took different artists and different things that from the history of the area had been strong,
Yeah.
but it was beautiful stuff. It was beautiful stuff. Clarkston tried it and had somebody actually paint a whole wall. And then I don't know what happened with it.
Never completed it.
It was
Well,
a
it was-
mistake.
it was completed.
They
do
charged
have
a
on the union.
ridiculous amount of money, and it took a really long time,
Well, I
so
thought
then
it
they
was a
backed out.
historical
Well, it
preservation.
was completely
committee.
finished, and then they got into this fight about
No,
something,
it's
then
got
they
all
painted
that
it over.
Then they'd be,
It's like,
I've never
That was
seen
crazy.
it. The wood shop
Yeah.
does have
It's
The
some.
not-
owner was
just
very
one big white
unhappy
wall.
Yeah,
with the
I saw
artist,
that too.
from my understanding.
I'm sorry, Matt, I didn't mean to distract everybody.
So essentially you're saying is there's a buzz, or there could be a buzz
Yeah,
Like
in
about mural
southeast
painting.
Michigan,
yes.
and it's a good time to capitalize on that
Yep.
buzz.
Detroit's got some really cool murals too.
And especially for entertaining, having DIA Inside Out again,
Mhm.
would be nice to be done beforehand.
Yeah.
I'd have that.
Okay, so I just want to recap where we are on these. The Red Barn property, just based on the raw votes, the primary strategy that it falls under is placemaking initiative. And secondaries are the financial diversification, which several people indicated, and the downtown Ortonville brand. I think the first two, well, placemaking, I see as an obvious choice. The financial diversification, I would say that is a work in progress. It's something that really needs to be part of the objective, part of the plans moving forward. But what does interest me is the downtown Ortonville brand. And I just, rather than guide the conversation, I'm interested to hear what your thoughts are on that. I know Rick is the one that mentioned it, I think.
What's that?
The Red Barn is downtown Ortonville brand.
Mhm.
Fine. What do the rest of you think? Do you see how that could play a role?
Down the road, I mean, not initially, just like the old mill
Right.
is the downtown brand, everybody knows the old mill.
Right.
Once the Red Barn is done and used for
And
activities,
used.
then yes, you can. I can see it as being.
So long-term,
For a
you're
long
saying
term, it would be.
long-term it would be.
In the 5 to 10 year plan versus the 1 to 5 year plan.
So what is that?
Yeah, how do we break it down?
How is the old mill the downtown Ortonville brand?
Everybody relates to it. It's very significant.
It's iconic.
The mill is pretty much the center part of the building.
Well,
What I see.
the history of it, the kids take tours of it while they're in elementary school. They go and have class there. I mean, it's a big
on the
part
logo
of.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we regularly have it as the header photo on the Facebook page because it is so recognizable to the community. But it is so attached to the community. Like I said, the elementary kids go there for an afternoon or a day. I don't remember now, but they go and have class in the old man schoolhouse. And before the old man schoolhouse was there, they had class upstairs. I mean, it's a whole.
And the way the campus is expanding, like you say, adding on the schoolhouse, adding on the blacksmith shop,
Mhm.
having access to the river, visions of possibilities with that and the growth. It's just a whole campus. It's not just a
It's
brick
nice,
building.
right?
It's
And
a
it's-
It's
place.
kind of
It's
a
iconic.
event
Yeah.
collaboration
anchor
with the schools then.
Yeah.
And the historical system, obviously.
So yeah, I mean,
Even though it's
and
really
like, so
appropriate.
like Paul was saying, in a longer term plan, definitely could be branded, but in the short, the 1 to 3 or the 1 to 5, however you wanna look at it, however you wanna, set those goals, the short term plan is the placemaking and the financial diversification. The next step then is the branding.
Okay.
So that's why
Did
I'm
you
not a
see it that way?
That's why I'm not a strategic thinker.
Your answer's not wrong.
Yeah, it's not wrong.
No, I know that.
Absolutely right.
I know that, but I'm looking at the promotion part of it
Right.
and getting it out there so people will show up when it's all ready. So that's,
I
You're
guess
thinking
my
more
question
long-term.
is, because I don't agree with what they've said.
Well,
So
which is
my-
okay.
My
Interesting.
question to you is, do you see, when you labeled that Red Barn as contributing to the downtown brand, do you see that similar to the Old Mill?
The Old
Contributing
Mill?
to the brand?
the old mill and the clock in downtown.
The clock, okay.
Because they use that, I've used it on advertising
Yeah.
And our
back in the
website
day.
does too, and so does the Facebook page.
I think
So-
like when you ask people where is the town, like you're pointing, or talk about the town hall, they'll say, oh, across from the Red Barn. Or, at the corner of blah, 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 where the Red Barn is. Yes, that is definitely an Ortonville brand. Everybody says something about the Red Barn. Where the Red Barn's for sale, like I said, and especially in the township and the village in the same spot, when you say something about the town hall.
Right.
Which one? One near the Red Barn or the one near the park?
Right,
So that's an
yes.
automatic.
It
It is
Uh-huh.
part of, Ortonville. I mean, when that went up for sale, the scuttle of taking it down, everybody's like, what if somebody wants to build a house there? It suddenly became, what if that Red Barn isn't there? And it drew attention when that sign went up. So I think that's, part of it.
And we will, at some point, we will be asked to move to the National Main Street refresh model, which focuses on transformational strategies. And it asks that the projects and initiatives we do not happen in silos like we've done for 20 years. They happen across all 4 of the Main Street points. And so as you're looking at this, specifically the Red Barn, if there is a thought that it can become iconic like the old mill, then our planning and strategies before we get started should keep that in mind. And it should be part, just like financial diversification. You've been thinking of it because you're working on, some of our research. But as far as the plans go, it should be more concrete. We should identify some of those potential financial streams before we jump, before we leave.
So you're saying, well, we all know that it's a financial diversification opportunity for us. We all know that. It's not on the tip of our tongue when we talk about it
We
necessarily.
may get down the road and say it's
We-
not.
Okay, right,
We might.
right. But that being said, it's all something that we are thinking about. It's just not at the forefront necessarily of the discussion, and so we should change that.
we
And
need
bring
to
it-
think in terms of these transformational strategies where we try to include all 4 points in every project. So it's design, it's organization, it's promotion, and it's economic restructuring or economic vitality. And based on our discussion and where we put these strategies, I think we really are more inclined to think that way. I think we're, without even being pushed in that direction, really, we are thinking that way, which is very positive, very good. And so I'm just challenging us to become even better at it as we go through some of these. And, you know, if a project only gets 1 vote for one of the strategies, that's still important for us to look at and say, yeah, we need to stretch these through all 4 points so that we're able to say it is truly transformative for not only the organization but the downtown. Okay. The communication plan. It's really focused on the downtown brand, some business development and organizational governance in there. I think that's pretty logical. The recruitment, organizational governance, and Friends of Amos. Farmers Market was the primary vote getter was placemaking, but not significantly. Business development, the Ortonville brand, and financial diversification are in there as well. The retail challenge largely focused on business development, but it also has the brand and placemaking. Business development resources focused on business development program and the collaboration strategies. Our partners program focused on, is aligned with our collaboration strategies, business development, Friends of Amos, and financial diversification. I'm surprised that financial diversification was not the other one there.
I didn't pick it because it's not, the sponsorship program, I don't see it as diversifying because it's already how we do most things.
Do we do it
It's just
well?
not a diverse, no. So, to me, it's not diversifying if it's something that is already predominantly used. Things like the farmer's market bringing in revenue, potentially the Red Barn bringing in revenue, things like that. Other ways of bringing in revenue, I view as diversification rather than sponsorship, which is already.
But it's a good point that you raised, because you would think that it would have been actually
Right.
reflection or.
And that's why I said that's the way I think about it, so that's why I didn't pick it, so I don't know,
I didn't either.
you know, how maybe somebody else views it that would place it higher.
And I think that's why when I said to Matt, like, I took literally every single definition for every single one. Not what I think the definition is, but what the definition says. And it's a lot different, like, when you look at it. You know, what you assume, like you said, it's bringing in revenue, but it's not, that's one of 3 important things about it. And so, like, I would look at each one intentionally, and so it changes, like, what your response would be versus what the definition said. And I think that was an eye-opener in the whole process. You know what you assume it is. And that's the only reason why I chose that, you know, what that is my main one, is by looking at it.
I still don't think I would have picked it.
As
To me,
primary.
Yeah, because we, are you sure? I want to. Because it's not, sponsorship is not creating long-term sustainability financially for us. It's not long-term.
If it continues, it does.
If you had something where, yeah,
I
people
mean,
were,
I look at it as this, if you're doing the sponsorship and so forth, like what we're seeing in our meeting with the evaluation, other states, other places don't do any TIP dollars. They're all done by sponsorship and local or businesses cooperating with us and doing everything else. That's why I tied it into Friends of Amos. So the whole idea is to get more activity, more sponsorship, not relying on TIF dollars. What if TIF dollars in the state of Michigan all of a sudden disappear?
right, that's what we have.
So this is where the long-term growth of those sponsorship works. And the more we do activities, the more people are attracted to the village. We're, with the signs and with the events and everything else, they're gonna wanna have that exposure. They wanna be part of that exposure,
Right. And I
which
think,
will make the sponsorship grow.
and I think
Yeah.
if it had said, something about fundraising versus sponsorship, I think my answer might have been a little different.
But
By the
what
way,
I think
too,
of
it's the
for,
same, isn't it?
Fundraising is not the same as sponsorship.
here's what I am picturing though with the sponsorship and the long-term financial diversification, is something like Michigan Public Radio, where you have people who through Friends of Amos are giving every month on a regular basis, right? It's just automatically, and you're building that base where, I mean, it might be a family doing $10 a month, right? But you get 100 families doing $10 a month. And then maybe it's 200 families or whatever. It then does relieve the pressure of the what ifs, because we don't know what the future is going to hold. And it does actually give us the leverage then to make an impact. We have such a small budget right now that it really is such a constraint for us.
And when we do get sponsorships, it's
Specific events, right? And the events are great, but really we are supposed to be revitalizing that zone, right? And we're doing that, but I don't feel like we're doing it as well as we
Could be.
if we had more resources. I'd love to buy and flip these properties, get them fixed up and make them gorgeous. Make sure, I mean, or work with the health department, get whatever. I mean, anyway.
Rabbit hole.
And so our partners program, the primary is collaboration strategies. Just real quick, without diving too far in, who would we be collaborating with?
Those who sponsor. Is that the number one answer? That it engages stakeholders, creates avenues for partnership, and fosters communication. All of those things we're talking about with the people we're approaching, asking them for sponsorship, asking them to participate.
Who do we see that as being? Everyone we're currently?
Anyone we approach.
Okay.
Anyone we approach, even if they don't sponsor, we're still engaging them and actively trying to get them involved.
I see how you did that.
No, I
I understand
The,
that. I didn't when I was reading this. I do now.
What's that?
I get rid
the brand,
Why
merchandising,
I think that.
obviously it's aligned with the downtown Ortonville brand. But the suggestion is that it's also aligned with collaboration strategies and placemaking.
I'm actually, in talking about all these different things, because you kind of forget, you focus on the word brand in that category, you kind of lose that merchandising word. And so to me, that has the potential to be financial diversification as well. That we didn't say.
Yeah, you didn't ask for secondary.
Well, forget,
Tertiary.
yeah, smarty pants.
No, I'm saying, so we didn't get to give, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think about it at first because you get hyper-focused on downtown Ortonville brand. Ooh, that's branding. But merchandising, that's a different thing.
Our community events, the primary strategy it's aligned with is the downtown Ortonville brand. Secondary would be placemaking and collaboration strategies. And maybe I missed it, but I'm surprised no one said Friends of Amos.
I was thinking about that, my primary was number 2.
Historical walking tour, primary is placemaking. Secondary are the downtown Ortonville brand and collaboration strategies. The wayfinding, placemaking, collaboration strategies, and the Ortonville brand. The public art mural program, primary is placemaking, collaboration, and the brand. We have 5 projects whose primary strategy is placemaking. And when we voted on placemaking, it was not a priority for this organization.
How many do we have for board development? Any? Just curious. I
One,
guess that wasn't a priority for us either.
it is referenced in 3, and it's primary in 1. The recruitment. So we in order for our efforts to be high functioning, we may have to look at this again and reprioritize. I will summarize this and get it out to everyone and identify some of those inconsistencies between what we did in step 1 and what we did in step 3.
I will say that I didn't take it as a primary and secondary. I took it as putting strategies applied to each one of these. So there's a lot of times there's 3 and 4. So, and a lot of those on mine were 7, which is Friends of Amos.
As a secondary.
No.
Oh, you just,
It's just
Right.
included.
Right. So, for instance, the last one I had 2, 5, and 7. The one before that, wayfinding had 1, 2, 5, and 7.
And that's how I did it. I did every single one, which numbers go with it. So I have almost all of them for number 2, because the business communication plan is involved in every single aspect.
Yes.
Then I just circle my priority. So they all are involved in most of them. It's just what is your priority is what you asked, not what's secondary. And then secondary, I think, would totally jumble and tie everything back in again. I mean, it's hard to, say it's not included in there, but to
So-
what degree?
so that inconsistency that I pointed out about placemaking, are you saying that if we strictly stuck to primary strategies, that would not be the case, potentially?
I think she's saying
If
if
you-
we
right.
talked about
Only.
secondary.
Right.
and-
Like if you made everybody pick one thing, 4 or 5 or 6 of them, everybody's like, there's 2. If we had to pick one, you're missing 50% of the view on that. So by saying only primary, there is a primary, but there's 6 secondary, hypothetically.
Then you have to rate which one's most
Huge
important to
difference.
Right.
It totally changes your numbers.
And
That
it
was
does,
the
but
point
I
of the
think,
exercise.
Right.
and it also drives our strategies for these things too, right? By forcing us to identify the primary. With the Red Barn, if the primary, what we've said with the primary was placemaking, and financial diversification was second, is that correct?
Yes.
Maybe?
I
And
think,
5 as well.
but I think none of us could really pick.
A couple people did though, and that's what made,
Yeah.
you know, stand out.
But I think there's a significant number of us that were like, it's 2 and 5. It's not,
Yeah, I also had 1 in there on the Red Barn, but I crossed that off.
I have 1, 2, 3, and 6.
I had 1, 2, and 5.
I have everything.
I'm at 6. Not 5, I'm at 6.
Well,
We
if I
all-
was
we
on that
said
too,
2 and
right? I mean,
6.
it's, so,
So I think Tiny's right, Amy, by just at top first glance, yeah, the Red Barn is a placemaking. Yeah, the mural project is a placemaking. Yeah, at top glance, that's what it is. But it is also financial diversification. It's also, I think,
It just can't stand alone.
yeah,
It almost,
Yeah, you
and
can't
that's
make it
what,
exclusive to just
Right.
that one idea.
like for me, number 2, absolutely everybody else picked 5.
yes.
But without the governance model being correctly in order solid, you cannot have a communication plan, you cannot work anywhere in your community. So that's why I picked 4. I'm the only one that did. And I'm not arguing, I'm just saying, what part is more important? They're hand in hand, you have to have, so when you say pick the very top one, it's very hard. Because so many things are important to each one.
Yeah.
And when we separate that out, it kind of skews it to me.
So to do this
a lot of it.
exercise, do you want one primary so you know where to focus on? Going forward?
Well, the organization has strategies that it says it wants to implement.
These 1 through 7, right?
Yes. And the projects and the initiatives that we focus on, that we spend time and money on, should be aligned with those strategies. Now, we've said for 2020, we can't do it all. We want to focus on less and accomplish more. So, with that said, yes, we want to align the projects with a primary strategy and secondary strategies.
but Matt's point also was that when we ranked our strategies before, in the last session, we ranked Amos as 1. We had a tie for second, which was business development and collaboration. And then we had financial diversification. So those 4, so 7, 3, 1, and 6. And yet,
They got the
5 and 6
they got
votes.
the least votes. So there's a
One
little
got a
bit
couple.
of, maybe a disconnect between what we identified as our priority strategies and
What
our
we do.
priority projects. So it's just making sure that we're focusing on the right projects to meet those priority strategies.
And through the process, we may say, you know what, the Red Barn, Farmers Market, our community events, walking tour, the wayfinding, and the mural program, those are near equal in priority for us, and so placemaking needs to change. We need to reconsider what we've said are the most important strategies for the year.
Can I ask a question, just as I'm looking at this?
This also helps once we get to budget time. Instead of just putting $1,000 in all 4 of the points, we're going to put a lot more money towards these things that we've said we want to accomplish in 2020. So let me ask this. do you want to send me your individual responses to this?
Rate from the most important.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah,
Maybe top
as it
three.
says, list the primary and any secondary strategies linked to each project alone.
So primary, and then there can be multiple secondary, is that what you're saying? Okay.
That's more rabbit hole.
I mean, or do you just want to stand on what we've captured here today?
I think going with the multiple secondary is gonna make a change. I mean, it's gonna show, you know, there's other options and other requirements that are being needed besides the primary.
Mhm.
It's one way of identifying them, I guess.
I mean, yeah, because, like I said, I mean, while some of these things, I mean, a historical walking tour to me, primarily, it is a placemaking initiative. However,
It's a big collaborative.
It's a collaborative, it's also collaborative, it's also branding, it's also, has potential to help with business development. As, you know, you're identifying, you could be identifying business buildings downtown that have huge historical, which could put them, you know, I mean, there's so many options that it could be, just because I say, to me, number one is placemaking, because it, you know, creating a place. Doesn't mean that the other,
Things have less importance, not
right,
necessarily.
or don't
Or don't
count,
count,
or
right.
don't, you know,
Doesn't apply,
aren't part
but
of it. I think limiting it to the number one, I don't wanna say it defeats the purpose, because that's not what I mean, but it, where we sit here and we're saying, okay, we need to be looking at things across all four pillars, or all four, points. Which I know it's on the front. All 4 points, then you ask us to pick one.
So
Well, we're
should
supposed to
we,
be looking at it across all 4.
should we be looking at it from a strategy perspective only? And because I think I was doing the opposite. I was taking each one independent of our strategies and just what do I think the most impactful thing is going to be with that? But should I be looking at it and maybe just looking at it strictly through the strategies? So I'm only looking at the strategies, I'm not thinking necessarily about the strategies as, I don't know if I'm making any sense.
No, we're all just kidding.
Yeah, you should be looking at the strategies, because the strategies are what we say we want to accomplish.
Mhm.
So
really
if
just looking
the
through that
organization
lens.
has said, the DDA will build and facilitate a comprehensive business development program that will spur economic development and so on. At the end of the year, you look at that and you need to be able to say, this is how we did it.
Right.
So is the next step to take the 4 points and put them in there as well, and see how that correlates?
No,
4
because
points is one step up from our strategies. And so it's like,
But if they don't, then wouldn't that help us to assist which ones are maybe not the priority? No?
we eventually will apply the action to the 4 points. Whether, you know, traditionally
So
we say
intentionally
this is
ensuring that it does.
this is a design committee project. This is an organization committee project. So the action gets assigned to the 4 points. I don't think we're there yet. I think we're still, you know, we look at some of these projects and initiatives and we get super excited. The objective is our strategies, and we may look at these strategies and we may say, you know what, in 2020, as much as we want to, we're not going to be able to focus on financial diversification. We may decide that, or take something else. The brand's going to be on hold for another year, something to that extent, or the business development program, or placemaking. You know, we may decide these 7 strategies, we can't do all of them. We can't focus on all 7 in 2020. And that's why we started with step 1, which said, we're going to focus on business development, collaboration, and Friends of Amos. That's what we said. And so our current strategy, or our current projects and initiatives should focus more on business development, collaboration strategies, and Friends of Amos. Because that's what you said are the priorities. And today, we've discovered that these attractive projects get us so excited, we don't care what strategy it aligns with, or
Well-
whether or not it aligns with one we said is a priority.
Yeah, but the strategies that you're looking at, first thing that jumps out to me is create synergy between groups and organizations serving Ortonville by developing collaboration strategies, which is something we need to do. Why do we need to do that? Because we want more involvement with the community, with what we do, okay? So with that, when we're looking at the Red Barn, now, right off the top of my head, is that gonna be involving them? Maybe down the road if they wanna rent it, or they wanna support it. But, yeah, that's important that we do that as a group to get more people involved with downtown. Is that gonna relate to everything that we do here, that you're looking at planning for this year? It's not. Because that just doesn't relate to some of the projects that we're working on. Now, Friends of Amos, you know, like you said, we should do more with Friends of Amos on everything that we're talking about here. Red Barn too. Now, if you do that Red Barn repurchase, that Friends of Amos is gonna be renting it, gonna be using it, that's gonna be a key of what, one of their activities, or the things that they do downtown here. That's gonna probably try to be included in everything they do. Whether it's Septemberfest or anything, if we're operating it. So yeah, that should be in all of them. So yeah, Friends of Amos would work with that. That's where I think sometimes it's hard to locate one of those four main, number 3, 4, 6, and 7, that we voted on before, in every activity that we've done, using one of those 4 principles.
Well, that's what I
And some
said,
work
seven's
with
like
it,
in
and some
half of
doesn't.
mine, but not as the main one. But I had 7 down for over half of it.
Over half.
It's really
Yeah, me
important.
too.
It's really, you have to have that. But, you know, how do you decide number 1?
Where's
There's
the
totally
other
different
one?
argument.
Yeah.
Somebody wanted to make sure that we mentioned that communication and placemaking is what's most important, because without it, Ortonville is off the map. Our silent stakeholder over here in the corner.
Yes,
Like,
real
it's
subtle,
okay.
I mean, another perspective and.
I don't want to take credit for it.
Tell you that.
So I think that this exercise is important, and it's making us think, and it's making us evaluate what we want to accomplish and
Absolutely.
how that's going to fit
And being
into
strategic
everything.
about it.
Yeah, and being strategic and making sure that what we want to accomplish gets the time, the energy, the forethought to make it the best that we can make it. I think that what we're all kind of getting at is where we think we need to focus the most, and what we already do and don't want to lose are kind of not meeting.
The other thing.
Well, there is.
There's
there-
some meat, but
You're allowed to have projects or programs on autopilot. And so you're allowed for those to maybe not be listed as a priority project. For example, the facade grant. It's nowhere on here, but we're gonna do it year in and year out.
right, and I think like
So-
the walking tour fits that too, because that's going on in the background. That's Carol is working on that. It's going. It's not something we have to worry about here at the table.
For
And
us to
that
be,
fits that.
in the opinion of our evaluation, for us to be even higher functioning, they want us more focused, or they're recommending we get focused on specific things.
Because they mentioned a number of times that we had a lot going on.
Like a lot of, yeah.
Well,
So
here's
we're-
the other
we're
thing,
kind
in
of-
all these items that we have on here, I'm counting Red Barn, communication plan. One thing we're not looking at on these that I haven't heard mentioned is Red Barn. That's something you've been working on diligently. been, what, a year and a half?
Oh, no, I only started working on that, when I do the
3 or 4
project
months
brief.
ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
November.
So you're doing Project Brief, it's been talked about for a year and a half, 2 years, what's 3?
We've been talking about it for a
Yeah.
long time overall,
Okay,
yeah.
and that's a work in progress. You compare that, to how much time it's gonna take to put that together? Because that's what we haven't talked about time on any of this.
Right.
Compared to downtown community events. Are you doing all the events? You're doing one event? Courtney spends relentless hours putting these together. Friends of Amos is gonna start taking over some of those. Do you need to prioritize, when you're making this decision, how long it's gonna take to put together the walking tour? Because if the walking tour is being done by one person, and we help advertising, and let's say on a scale of 1 to 12, 12 months to 1 month, that's a 2-month program to take to put together. Now, the Red Barn is a 12-month program to get together. Some are easier than others.
Right.
So when you're looking at picking up what you're gonna work on out of all these things, some we're gonna drop off, some we're gonna work on, you have to look at which ones are gonna take, it's only a 1-month
Our
program.
resources.
It's
Our
easy, our
resources,
resources
right?
are simple, that one's a no-brainer, we can get that done. Something is gonna take 6 months, and it's a work, whether it's the mural, whatever it is, the sponsor partner, that's constantly ongoing, all right? So if you're gonna knock something off, we have to prioritize also what's easy and what's hard.
Mhm.
And they may not be
And-
competing projects, like you're saying.
Right.
Correct.
They may be done in 2 different corners.
And
But
that's
it's
something
being
we're not
realistic
looking
about
at,
what
or-
can we accomplish,
Right,
right?
be realistic.
Right,
Because
exactly.
there's Carol working on the walking tour, I'm working on community events, Allison's working on the Red Barn project,
And
and the communication plan. And you know, it's all these different, like I said before, you're saying some of these things are on autopilot, like the facade grants and the downtown dollars and things like that we're going to continue to do, but they're not on here. Well, I kind of view some of these other things that are on here almost like that too, because the committees are, the last 3, the walking tour, the wayfinding initiative, the public art project, those committees are doing those are happening, those are, we don't at this table need to worry about those.
And the walking tour is self-guided, right? So
It will
once
be.
that is in place,
It's in place,
then they'll be able to get a map but you still will need someone who's gonna make sure that there are
stays up to
additional
date.
maps.
Yeah, and so it's,
And you're saying like that is a woman named Carol organizes that, and is that kind of like
She's
come out of the
working on
barn? Or, I mean, I'm sorry, out of the old mill?
no, she works with us and she's
Okay.
a historian at Oakland University who lives here in the community who's working on that.
Fabulous.
And, I mean, so there's a
Okay.
lot of those kind of,
Yeah.
that's just 3 things, and it's kind of like, once those are done, those are done.
But
Those won't be on our
That's the
priority
objective.
list, right?
That's the
So,
objective, is to not get to February of 2021
And have
all
none
with
of
the
these-
same list.
right, and I
So
think-
maybe we do need to refocus. I'm just
But I
thinking
think-
about all of this. I think like just taking the walking tour as an example, right? So if we put our energy, devoted more resources towards that and said, okay, Carol's identified these 5 buildings. We've also said that we want to put a placard in front so that it gives more information and identifies that, becomes kind of that part of that package. We know that it would happen at that point,
Mhm.
for sure, right? And it would be a robust program. With all of the, and I didn't, but all of the things we do have on here, it is a lot. It is a lot, and I don't.
Right, but with
We can't stop that program, I mean, we
Oh, I'm not
could,
saying-
we could stop any program, right?
Well, I'm
That's
not
the point,
suggesting
but-
that.
Right, I didn't take it as you were.
Okay.
It is a lot, but I think specifically, again, with the last 3 on here, those 3 items are going to be done this year, no matter what happens, and they're gonna.
Wayfinding's
No.
not. Wayfinding
Well-
is a 24-month.
Yeah, well, that's a,
And I'm not suggesting
But
any of these in
it won't-
particular come off, but I mean,
Right.
like, with the Red Barn is a big one, right? I mean, that's,
Right, and
but
I
we
would-
haven't made any decisions about that yet either.
Right.
And that's part of what I'm trying to do, is get all of the information. I have some that I'm not disclosing yet intentionally, I'm waiting for additional information.
Just want to keep us on the edge of ours.
The second.
I feel like I'm playing a poker game, honestly, so I want to get all of my facts first, and then I want to put it all out there for all of you.
Well, and the second thing I was gonna say is some of them are not going to fall off. Some of these things will still be on here next
I
year.
think
Some of
most
these
of
things
them
won't
will
be
be
on
on
here
there.
next year.
Board
But
and
the Red
volunteer
Barn is likely
recruitment.
going to be
That's
there.
gonna be
That's
always
always
trying
be
to.
always.
Right.
It's
Yes.
always gonna be here.
Correct.
Farmers market's already started.
Right.
It's gonna be here.
Yeah.
Now, if you're saying, where do we focus our resources on through the exercises we've been doing the last 2 months? I get that. But you said, which ones do we work on, which ones we don't? And a lot of these might have, number one, which wasn't one of our primary, the business development program, which is what we primarily said last month. But that's what I put for farmers market, because I think that's what it does, is more people come downtown here, you get more vendors down here. That'll bring more business recruitment. Yeah, it's sort of an offshoot. It's not actually what it's meant to do, but it is meant to bring people down here.
Well, we program that. We make that decision, whether or not we see the farmer's market as a business development tool in that program. And then that changes our attitude, our reaction, our planning towards the farmer's market. Yes, we have a market manager that's running the market, but this board creates the priorities for that market. And if this board says the farmer's market is a key piece of our business development program, then our market manager needs to be coached on that priority so that she can,
Works towards that
yeah,
initiative.
exactly.
Here.
And
Yeah,
I don't want
work
to,
towards it.
I don't want, we can begin to move on, but I just wanted to draw one correlation. And Tanya asked about, is our next step to apply these to the 4 points? And we will get there, because that's how some of these, they're either driven through project teams or through one of the 4 points. But that exercise is essentially to identify a lead on the project.
Right.
So the question is, we've been saying, what do we want to accomplish as an organization? Eventually, we get to that step where the question is, which of these priorities that you've identified are you willing to lead?
Right.
Are you willing to work with me and a small group of volunteers to lead? And if there's nothing that rises to that level for you, then we need to find something. Or you need to be working with in partnership with another board member to,
And I think that you just hit it, because as I'm looking through these, yeah, we're looking at these strategies, but I guess I'm thinking which committee leads the project. I mean, that's still going on, right? Red Barn, it's a placemaking project, it's a design project, first and foremost. Historical Watch, Your Wayfinding Initiative, Public Art, in my mind, these are all placemaking, design. So I guess that's, now that you said that out loud, I realize that that's what was going on in my brain as well. Is what pillar does it fall under? And
well,
that's not how that was supposed to be.
primary and secondary. Remember,
Right.
we're primary and secondary because, as we've identified, these projects and initiatives can cover multiple strategies. And to that end, the Red Barn could be an organization
Absolutely.
project first.
Absolutely.
And then the organization part of it gets researched, analyzed, and planned, and then design takes it.
It did not occur to me that that's the way I was thinking. I subconsciously was thinking about it in the 4-point way, I guess. Now that you said that.
I wanted to bring up something real quick. I don't know if you guys know this or not, but Brenda had started on a walking tour with a graphic artist to put something together before. And I know I gave Matt one that I've done back in 2010. So there are starting, or there was, and there, I'm assuming there still is somebody possibly working on it, I don't know.
I'm not aware of a walking tour that Brenda did, but we were working on an M15 shopping
Right.
Was that what it was?
that
Okay,
went
and I-
Clarkston to Davison,
Mhm.
and we just couldn't get the other communities
She likes
energized
that
on it.
video.
She does, sorry.
So, she's fine.
So you're going to put it together and send it
I
out?
think what would be helpful is if you could just send me your, on each of these 12 projects, send me your primary and secondary. And if you have 2 listed as primary and several secondary, great. Just so I can double check. Because it sounds like we didn't capture 100% of
What you were
your
thinking.
thoughts.
Right.
So I want to make sure we do that. And then I'll summarize those and get them out.
Okay, so moving on to item B, board member recruitment.
Just on your schedule, because of course, we are in need. What I've also included in the packet is just the excerpt from our bylaws, which governs appointments to the board. And as a reminder, the village chief executive, who in this case is the village council president, Tanya, she, not just through our bylaws, but through the state DDA law, she is the one who appoints board members to the DDA with the approval of the village council. And currently, we are 2 short of the minimum required by the DDA law. That's something I'd like us to move forward. And we've talked, and the way we've structured it in the past is we've done some digging and done some research and then made the introduction to the village council president and asked if that was someone that they would be interested in consider appointing, and gone through the process that way. Kind of do some of the early work and bring those candidates to the village council president. Also from our evaluation, we had 1 or 2 township trustees and the township supervisor who participated. And one of the things came up was there's not a misunderstanding, but there's a
It's a
non-understanding of how the township can be involved in the DDA, what their role is in the DDA. And Courtney and I had talked about the potential of asking one of the current township board members to serve on the DDA.
Oh, that's a great
They
idea.
recommended that with Main Street as a liaison when we had our joint meeting with all 3. That's on my list. Quite a long time.
From last July
Yeah, literally.
or April.
But you're gonna have a lot of,
Township resident as a liaison, they said that's quite common with another.
This, and that, and having that position, do we know if that would be a village appointment, a council appointment?
Same.
Okay,
Anyone who serves on our board would
so we
go
have
through
to,
this process.
okay. Do we wish to pick and approach someone, or
opened it up to.
or
them
do
to
we
see
just
more.
want to say, the
Someone
township board,
Who's interested?
who's interested in the liaison position?
I think you start with that.
I have a particular person in mind that I'd like to see in that position, who poses a lot of benefits to us, in many, many ways. So,
There's gonna be a lot of changes on
Which-
that board this year too.
Which option did
A lot
you
of people
just
leaving.
she said,
recognize?
You want somebody, you want to offer it to everybody, You want somebody to tell you that they're intentionally interested, therefore they're active. And then you can go from there. And you can, get a chance to talk to them and.
I would say offer it to.
And I don't mean
for sure.
interview, but
But you
definitely
can
to kind of
Let
get an
your person
idea,
know that,
why are you interested, what are you interested in, and just kind of have that dialogue.
Well, and I think Paul makes a good point too. Come November, the supervisor, the clerk, and the treasurer are not running.
They're gone.
So come November, you're potentially looking at a whole new board. I mean, you're always potentially looking at a whole new board, but you are certainly looking at
Those three
those
positions.
three
But
positions
we're
are
talking
going to
just
be
with the
vacant.
board trustees.
Not necessarily.
No. Talking Thurman.
Anybody.
Allen.
Right.
If you open it up to the board, it's all 7 board members. Which doesn't necessarily preclude any of them from serving. I mean, if Kathy decided that she was interested and wanted to participate, we appoint her to the board. At that point, she's liaison until she is no longer serving on the township board. Then she could continue on in her capacity on the DDA board. That's not an issue. I don't see that being an issue. We just at that point would have to get a different liaison.
does she live in the village? or
No.
live in the township?
None of the
So you
board,
said
none of the
supervisor,
township
treasurer,
board members
who's the
live in
other
the
one?
village.
Supervisor, treasurer,
And
and
clerk.
Clerk.
The 3 of them are not running in November.
That's the other question I have for you. If we need 2 more board members, do they have to be village residents?
A board member does.
Mm-mm.
Or
Appointees from the
interest
non-village
in business.
taxing jurisdiction are not eligible to hold office.
But it doesn't have
Officer.
to, officer, it doesn't have to be,
Correct.
the board members are allowed to
Okay,
be.
so they can be on the board, but not.
And it has to be someone who has,
So,
It can be a voting member.
and they're all,
They can
everybody,
be,
yeah.
all
They're
6,
just
all
not
the board
an
members are
so
voting.
you have to have
That's what
no
I'm
less
saying,
than
they
one
can
who
be,
is a
that's what I'm saying.
resident.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And then you can have not less than a majority shall be persons having an interest in property located in the downtown district.
We have that now.
Just saying, I mean, these are the
Right.
criteria.
Right, yeah, it has to be someone who has an interest. But the problem is that we have to consider as well is we have brought forth candidates before who have vested interest in the downtown.
I would
and
still love
who
to
were- Who
get
were,
Matt.
I don't think he will.
I don't know that he will now, but I mean, what a
Eventually.
shame.
And even though we did bring up the township trustees as an option, I don't want us to dive into listing a bunch of people we want to approach. I'd rather us identify what process do we want to put in place between now and, say, April to have those 2 spots filled.
And you mentioned board, specifically, the conversation from Main Street was liaison, not board member. That's why I'm saying a non-voting member to communicate back, not necessarily a board member.
Okay.
That was the discussion, doesn't mean it's right or wrong.
The
That was,
there are, we can go in that direction if that's the way we want to go. We do receive, our TIF captures township tax dollars. So having representation from the township on the board, I think is consistent with this resident requirement or person having interest, because they generate revenue from village taxpayers
Yeah, I
on a
would-
township level.
I wouldn't want it to be a non-voting board member. I don't think that would be appropriate, especially if we capture township tax dollars.
The other thing I'll mention on township and village is there are examples of DDA in Main Street, Oakland County that do not have a municipality within the township. It is the township that authorized the DDA.
That is the municipality.
Right. So,
We are unique in that side. So how do we go about approaching the township for a board member? I think that that's something that we can actively do right away. I don't think that that's something we need to necessarily wait on. Not that we're waiting on the other board members, that's not the right word I'm looking for, but I don't think that that's something we need to.
You think we can execute that more
Yes,
quickly?
thank you.
And I would say, what do you, Tanya, what do you see as a good way to help you in this process? Because ultimately, you are making the appointment. Would you like us to do these sorts of groundwork?
I would
type of
like
stuff?
that, yes.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, everybody can't be everywhere, and it's nice to get, feedback and input, and I absolutely value that. I mean, that's not I think we kind of had a discussion at one point. It's, okay, there's an open spot, you don't appoint somebody. You want to make sure they're intentional and that they're involved. And when somebody has a connection, and everybody has different connections, you're able to find those resources.
And we've, multiple times in 2019, we communicated to the general public that there are vacancies on the DDA board, on the planning commission, and we've never received an application for the DDA. And so I think we have to be a little more personal in our approach to engaging some targeted folks that we would like to serve on the board. So is there anybody who is willing to work in a small group to identify 2 to 5 people and begin approaching them?
Yeah.
All right, now the list, I'd be happy to share.
And it's still on the website, by the way.
Do you want to work on
I don't know
that?
anybody, I don't have anyone like
I don't have a problem taking the lead on it.
I'll work with you for sure on it.
But if you already have a list of people, then
Yes,
we
and
need to consider it.
What I would also suggest is something that we think about doing is putting something, before, like for Creek Fest, we used to do something through the schools where they would send a flyer home with every school kid. What if we did an actual,
We're looking for you.
yeah, let's do something that's a little more personable.
We need your help.
Well, and Matt can do that with his district letter, monthly letter, too.
Not you.
Sorry. What about sending a personal letter to the people that you guys are thinking of?
I think that's a
Well,
solution.
what I would
Hey,
do is
we
reach
think-
out to
Yeah,
them.
identify the
I've
people.
actually gone and met with people
Mhm.
and talked to them about it. I had, I don't have it in here, but like a little board recruiting packet. Kelly Quisenberry was the person that I had been meeting with that I was trying to, because I'd like
Kelly
to also
has my
get,
board packet and has for almost a year. I don't have this right now.
we need to redo some way or update them, but I get it.
So,
But, because I would like to get some younger people, that's why I'm thinking if we did
families,
Yes.
people who.
another perspective, I
Right.
mean, we're all, not all, I can't say
Yeah,
that.
bite your tongue.
Well, I'm a lot older than you are,
We're not allowed.
but there are,
A lot of us are getting older.
there are a couple of
Their
us
replacements now.
who are,
You don't have young family anymore.
yes.
Yeah.
I mean, so we're in that typical demographic, and I would like to get some of those younger.
Yeah.
You're not coming
sure.
down for the carnival necessarily. You're not coming down to use the park
Right.
necessarily.
Right.
You're not, like the younger families
Right.
are.
Yes.
And I think also students, if we could get some students
Yeah.
that, or a student that was a board member.
So the other discussion there, that
But we can talk about that offline, because we're in the weeds, sorry. We'll definitely do that.
yeah,
We can even do that after this
Yeah,
meeting.
good.
I have a 9:30 here.
yeah, I'm good.
10.
Matt's home, so my Matt's home.
Okay.
That's it.
It's very
Yeah, a lot of maths, a lot of,
Yeah.
I have 9:30 to 10:30.
I'm like,
My
oh
God. Okay,
which one?
all right.
Ugh,
That's
anyways, so I guess at this point then, again, the township person is something that, as Allison corrected me, thank you, can be executed quickly, I feel like. And so how do we want the village council president and the DDA president to sit down with Kathy maybe and talk about that. Or Matt, I mean, how do we want to,
Like
that's
I
something that
said,
can happen rapidly. It's not,
I suggested you identify who was gonna work on it, and like Allison just said, you can attack it offline at this point.
okay, the township as well. Okay, that's
So once
good.
that person shows interest, have them see Tanya.
Well,
Make the intro, yeah.
yeah. So moving
Well,
on.
we have some recruiting materials, but I think we should
Well,
also
yeah,
look at that and
we'll
pull
talk
those together.
Yeah. So what Alice and I are saying is we're gonna stay and talk about that once this meeting is done, so if anybody else wants to stay and talk about that, you're
Yes.
welcome.
Please.
Okay, so moving on from there, we have additional business and board member comments. Rick, do you have anything?
Nope.
Tanya?
Yes. Just on the calendar, I'm not sure if it's on the calendar yet. April 24th will be the 200-year anniversary Oakland County tree planting. Afternoon time, not decided. Council will kind of mull over that at the next meeting. So just keep that in mind if you're available that afternoon.
Oakland County 200 year?
Well, because in correlation with the Oakland County 200-year anniversary, they're requesting communities to build, plant an oak tree in their communities. They're requesting possibly that day, that is National Arbor Day. So we're doing, excuse me, the tree planting that afternoon, possibly at this point. Well, time frame is to be decided.
I'm sorry.
Plant
What was
where?
the date?
April 24th, Friday.
Any idea where yet, or no? Not that it
No,
matters, I was just curious.
we've not
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
officially. Yeah,
That's
Bob's narrowed it down to a couple.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the second thing, Matt and I talked briefly, but just kind of to put it in your minds. I was super excited to finally make contact with the Brandon High School woodworking teacher. And they are entertaining the idea to work with us on projects. They're excited about it.
That'd be great.
My vision came in is something future, obviously planned well enough ahead of time that they can totally take on that project. And I'm simply throwing it out there. Like when Matt and I were talking, I said, what about like a gazebo? So then they would all throw in drawings, they would all decide, they would all bring it back, they would decide how much the equipment would cost, whatever. Bring it back to whoever wants a gazebo, and then it would become a school project.
Or picnic
So,
tables.
just in general, it was just simply a statement, like, hey, what about, can we work
Yes.
together on that?
Tanya.
Yes, to fall into their curriculum, they need that time frame. They need that, well-planned, I mean, it can be a project 4 years from now. I'm just simply stating. In
Yes.
general,
Sure.
they're excited, they're receptive, time frame, money, all that comes into play, just opening
Our
conversation.
students can also be in front of our walls.
So,
Apparently, I'm going to be working with, whatever his name is, I can't remember. My wife set it up, that I'll be coming in a few days a week for the high school in the woodworking class.
oh, nice,
Oh, good.
nice.
So,
Good.
Good
So,
start
yep.
there.
Yeah,
So
so like
that'll
I
be a
said,
nice
connection.
just in general, yep,
Connection.
they're excited, and of course, he's interested in anything. They're built in an awesome tiny house right now, that's what the project
Yeah.
is.
So you would be the
For you.
natural liaison
No.
between the DDA
I
and
said-
Well, I
them.
could be,
Well,
that
I'll
that
talk
wasn't
about
the
it.
plan, but I was going to go in and, talk with the students and give some opinions and whatever else. I'm sure what all he has in mind.
Yeah, he's
Better if
awesome.
you become a board member.
Yes, ask him if he'd be interested in being a board member.
I'll find out.
Yes.
No.
And then the last thing is, I just want to, we've touched base a little bit on having possibly an antique event that was tied to the walking tour and the opening of the blacksmith shop. Okay,
Yes,
that's not showing up at all in anything. I find to pass that along to the old mill because they are interested in using that as their fundraiser. Is that okay?
What?
The
Antique show.
antiquing, everything tied in with the walking tour and the blacksmith shop. We were talking about having a whole event, a possibility of that. We're not discussing that, so is that okay to pass that along so they can utilize that?
Yes.
Yes,
Perfect.
yes. Yeah.
When is the
Nothing.
blacksmith
That's
shop
their thing here,
Thing.
yeah.
Okay, Bob?
No idea.
opening?
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever.
That sure? Depends on what
Okay.
events were being tied to it, the official.
Well, you got the spring garden show too.
The spring garden show is May 16th.
Right. And that's what we were talking about, doing all that together.
Go ahead.
And I'll volunteer as in the past for the spring garden show, and we'll just sign out.
Friends of Amos meets tomorrow morning with
Okay.
Tony to talk about
Okay.
the springtime garden show.
Okay.
I'll let her know. Paul,
What?
any other comments?
No.
Kim?
Yeah, what I would think is with collaboration with other businesses is, like, working M15, something that I thought about, and like maybe, like so many, whatever, 1 mile this way, 1 mile this way from where we come out at M15. And like really, like trying to like re-energize any of the businesses that we've already talked to over the years. And then anyone new, trying to encourage them to, like to open up and to see that, you're really in close proximity to all this. So if you're a part of it, you will get some spillage over into you. So, money-wise, so because that's always what it is about in the bottom line, the business is money. So even say like, Bullfrogs is a new, ownership or what have you, and so like them, I don't, we haven't approached them yet, DDA hasn't, I'm sure, other people have for stuff, but friendly with the family. So, like, I want to talk to him about, like things like, what if, when there's events, sometimes down in Clarkson, they'll have like the local places, restaurants might have a set up a booth and just
Taste
offer
of
some tastings or some appetizers, or maybe there's something new on the menu. I don't know, like, and try to incorporate them. Now we got the fees, close, renovate, that's gonna be all new, they're gonna want, some like, hello, I'm here.
Yep.
So, you know what I mean, like, so trying to like tap into some of those and get them to somehow realize that you're not in our village, but you're close enough in proximity that you could really get some good, So I think, I'm willing to take on like a level of awareness with these businesses, to let them know that, they could really like help us out, and that, we
And we can help them.
can help them out too with more
Sure.
good publicity.
Great.
That's just one thing I was thinking about, so, yeah. I'll do that. Okay.
I just wanted to mention that when Matt and I went to the Oakland County planning session where they were getting feedback from various stakeholders, it was impressive, by the way. That they also talked about census takers. They are still, as of that date, they were still looking for 3,800 census takers.
Yes, in here.
They
Yeah.
start at $20 an hour, and it goes up to $24.50.
Yeah.
It is something, just so that you know, I did not know this, so I've been telling everyone because I think it's a great little gig. It is, you make your own hours, you get an assignment, and you can take as much or as little time to complete that assignment. Like, I talked to one of my daughters and I said, you and your friend could double up, and you each get your assignments, you work them together so that
It's a
you're
2-day
not
class
alone.
you have to take to do it.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, what a great, and then as soon as you're done, you can request your next assignment. So it's just for someone, and it didn't impact some benefits. So if you have someone who maybe
Social Security or
assistance or
whatever.
something, up to a certain dollar amount, I want to say it was $1,000 a week, it will not impact, it will not reduce
Change.
your
Yeah.
benefits. So it could be a very nice thing for someone who could use that extra money. That's all I have.
And Candace, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to skip over you.
Oh, no, you're
Yeah,
fine,
I
I
can
think
add.
they were just doing. I think the only thing that I would add is, thank you for allowing me to go through the farmer's market certification. It has been, freaking phenomenal. And I say that because whenever I go to trainings, they're awful. And I never learn very much, and with this one, I have taken away so much. And so next month, hopefully at our meeting, I can give you like the look of everything that I took away from it, from measuring to the, to the laws, to the, the new programs, the new look, everything. So how we're gonna run the farmer's market, how we're gonna grow the farmer's market, all that fun stuff. So hopefully I will have that for you to see at the next meeting. So
Very cool.
It's been very cool. This Saturday is my final presentation, so yay. And I'm passing with 100% right now, so I'm like really happy.
Good for you. Good job.
Thank
Where do
you.
you physically go to do this?
Wayne State, down in Detroit.
Oh,
So a lot of it is done online through webinars and things like that, but it was a couple days down in Detroit, and then this Saturday we'll be in Detroit.
Wow, that's
So,
awesome.
Yeah, it's very
Good for
nice.
you.
Very
Thanks
nice
for doing
program.
that too.
No problem, no,
Yeah.
it's been like an 8-week online college course, so
Wow.
it's been intense, but it's been good.
Very cool.
That's cool stuff. Good for you.
Thank you. Oh, thank you guys.
So, as usual, just remind everyone to take a look at the calendar, and the upcoming meetings and everything going on. I know that Matt and I are registered to go to Dallas. Do we have any other registrants?
Tanya has indicated her interest in taking advantage of the scholarship that we did.
Any other village council interest?
Colleen expressed interest. She didn't
Follow up.
confirm
Okay.
that she wanted to, just had
Did we put a
expressed
date on that?
for,
Them to let us know.
well, I think we need to,
I think it was by the time the early registration closed.
The early bird.
It doesn't change the price on the elected officials.
Oh,
Right.
There's
Okay.
just the same amount.
Okay.
I
It would
don't
have
think we had a
practicality
date,
reasons.
but in my head, I was waiting for the council to determine if they were going to fund the other 500. Or, you know, that's what we
The
said,
additional
was it
cost,
was a
right.
match, and whether or not there would be funds allocated through their educational program, or
Okay.
educational assistance.
And how many days are they out there? How many days is it?
Sunday through, there's classes that start on Sunday.
The 17th.
And
It
then
is very cool.
the
I learned
last
so
classes are usually Wednesday morning with the big party Wednesday night.
Officially, you know, the things on the 17th are pre-conference activities, so that.
Main Street 101 happens on Sunday, which is,
Really?
I'm planning to attend again. I
Yeah.
did last year. I thought it was awesome. It's a,
Mm-hmm. That's the
they
thing that I
take
did.
an hour and
the
do
year I went, I
each,
loved
or an
it.
hour,
2 hours.
is it 2 hours per,
Is
Is this like 12
to noon to 2?
noon to 5, I think it goes? No, it's like noon to 5:30 or something. Anyways, they take a big chunk of time and focus on each of the 4 with a expert presenting, and I'm planning to attend again, so that training in particular. So anyway, yeah, it's pre-conference classes, as Matt was indicating, so I'm kind of excited. So yeah,
I'll
class,
talk to you a little
it starts
bit more about it
Sunday,
after.
and then runs through Wednesday, and I'm intending to stay Sunday and fly out Sunday and fly home Thursday, so I can stay for everything this year. Last year I flew home Wednesday.
Right, okay. Yeah, okay.
Anyway,
Awesome, yeah.
if
I'll talk
that's,
to you after.
if that's, Matt, do you have anything to add? I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
I will entertain a
I'll
motion to
motion.
adjourn. Thank you.
I thought you were doing it.
Nobody call it.
All in favor?
Have to be-
Aye.